So what was your first big, well, not big, just your first casting gig with Rocket League?
Professionally or like just in general?
Um, Both.
Uh, that's cheating. For one. Um, Amateur, like when I first got started was, and Leaf has probably told you all this from last week too. He and I both started our first event ever was VVV,
Hmm.
with Bagsley. So and not many people know about it. I got my start with Rocket League as more of a competitive player. Um,
Really?
I started the game, so I didn't have any friends to play with because they were all still playing League and stuff and hadn't transitioned over yet.
Hmm.
So I queued a lot of ones because I
Oh,
just didn't feel comfortable dragging down somebody else.
ones is
So
gross.
I played a ton of ones and ended up peaking at about top 10 in ones
Season
in
one
preseason
or
season one.
oh
Yeah,
pre
season one.
okay.
Yeah. So the first season of competitive, I was a top 10 player in 1v1s way back.
God, that's crazy.
Um, yeah, and then realized very shortly on that the competitive scene was going into 3v3s, and that's what ESL was developing and all that other kind of stuff. I Power was now like 45-0 at the point. They were like halfway through they were going. So I ended up queuing into some people that you guys might know, Espion, Husky, Snappy, Lars, some like old names that
Haku?
Haku from way back. Yeah, a lot of those guys that were all like really solid ladder players that were still trying to figure out what their team was going to be.
Hmm.
And there's two other guys. One was named Ishmael, and another one was named Tonker. And Ishmael
Ishmael
was
and
like
Tonker.
this really crazy like support player that I absolutely loved because I used to be the striker for our team. And if anybody's seen my gameplay recently, they're like, that's not possible. Um, but yeah, I ended up teaming up with two guys, Ishmael and Tonker, and creating a team deemed Team Scoop was our name. And we peaked roughly around like top 12, top 13 for United States
Wow.
in ESL. I mean, we made it to the quarterfinals every single week in ESL. We usually got knocked out by like Mocket or fucking Untethered, which was Pluto and the guys back when
Man, that
Pluto
is
was
such a throat. Those names,
the
holy.
Don. Air Force Two, and yeah. So we were up there with like Double Tap and the rest of them, like James Bot and those guys, way
Okay.
back. But like never enough to break into like the top 8 to where people actually started noticing you. We were always like right in that. I was like one of the OG bubble teams, which is frustrating.
That's crazy
Um,
because like you look at it now and it's like if you were there
yeah,
now, people would have been like, "Oh
that's
crap,
I mean
these
that's
guys are coming
RLRS.
up." Like
Yeah, I mean that's RLRS, right?
exactly.
Um, so all that stuff was going down, and at the same time, we started competing in VVV tournaments and trying to find whatever we could at the same time, and their tournaments stopped existing because no one was there to cast them. So Cloud Fuel ended
Oh.
up making a post publicly on Rocket Garage and Rocket Dash League and all that kind of stuff, saying that they needed commentators.
Hmm.
So I applied for it. Super happy I got a reply, and they're like, "Yeah, send in a demo reel." Blah blah blah. Turns out I'm getting excited over the response they sent to everybody. So that. I was like, "Hell yeah, I got a chance. Let's do this." So recorded my first cast ever over Air Force Two and like another top tier team. I think it was Untethered at the time. And Bagsley replied, and he's like, "Hell yeah, you're super good. Like, we can't wait to have you. Let's do this." So I got put on my first official like amateur like foreign organization was VVV's Saturdays shuffle tournaments, which were
Okay.
everybody signed up and then you just got randomized as a team. Like
Your
they
your audio's kind of muffled
is
right
it
now.
better now?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, so we did VVV Saturday tournaments, which was like their shuffle tournaments where everybody just got randomly put in different teams, and then we also had like a captain's draft one, which I wish the pros would do. But
That'd
yeah,
actually be sick.
it was Saturdays. Saturdays for VVV was my
Mm.
first ever, and then my professional debut was RLCS season 1, April/May of 2016.
Man, that's so crazy. Just oh,
It's been a long ways since the beginnings, man.
it has. Just like hearing those names from preseason and season one, it's just
Job, right?
oh, the
Especially like in
nostalgia.
contrast, because like I literally got back 2 days ago from E League, so it's like you go from that to that, and it's just like
Oh yeah, I was
takes
just
you
over
back.
here doing this thing,
Yeah,
Whereas
it
like,
makes you extremely appreciative of where we've been in 3 years.
oh yeah, it's crazy where we've come from.
Yeah, still super young in the community.
Yeah. So with casting, how do you personally prepare for a casting event?
Um, I mean everybody's a little bit different, right?
Hmm.
I've always been my prep has changed over the years. Um, when I first started, like I personally will not go back and listen to my casting pre-season 4,
Oh no.
uh, because it's all garbage. It's just pure trash. Um, I come from a sales background. I'm very calculated in the things that I do. I um had a hard time breaking that habit for a very long time
That's the thing.
because for me, yeah, yeah, for me when I went into work, work to me was suit and tie, professional, like it's what I'd been doing for the past 8 years, right?
Hmm.
Is
Yeah.
that transferred over into when I sat down to cast Rocket League, my brain was in work mode. And it took me a long time to break out of that, where they hired me because of personality and I knew the game. So let that show, right?
Yeah.
Um, and when you're trained to on your brain just turn a switch and flip a switch to be like, okay, don't swear, don't do this, don't do that. The rest comes with that as well. So it was a really tough time for me to break out of that. So the first couple of seasons, like I prep like no other. I like you think, yeah, I think I saw you mention like Shogun's notes page.
Yeah.
Mine's that sometimes.
Ugh.
Um, stats, histories, unique identifiers, correlations between boost and this and that, and a lot of compare and contrast, and a lot of analytical stuff that goes behind the scenes, and trying to find like how does that appropriate to a different thing to explain why they play a certain, like a lot of different stuff. But the main two that I always do, no matter what, that have always stayed true is VOD review, for both myself and specific teams. So like if next week they're like, okay, Dignitas and uh, Vitality are playing, I'll go back and watch all their matches from the previous week, and then I'll usually as well watch the last time they played each other to see if that's telling. And some of that stuff can be scrapped because teams change so much over the course of short periods of time, especially for Rocket League.
Yeah.
So I usually do that, and then not only do I watch their play styles and take subtle notes of like why they did what they did, but I also prep like typical stat lines, correlations between previous weeks. So like, if this week is week 2, week 1 they're shooting at this percentage, this shooting, blah blah blah, and then I'll look at that and compare it to the next week and be like, okay, did they improve? Did they decrease? Why is that? Is it because of the opponents that they played? Like you have to take all the stats with a little bit of grain of salt, right?
Hmm.
Based upon like, yo, if they played this team that just got relegated, clearly they're gonna have better stats compared to somebody else. So doing that kind of work, prep work, is probably like 90% of my job,
Okay.
which a lot of people don't see. And then going back and reviewing my own VODs, what did I say? How did I say it? I said the word very too many times. What are other words for very? Looking stuff up like that. And then just reading a lot. And that's just something that you do passively. Like anytime I take a flight or like a trip somewhere, I make sure to read books all the time just to increase my vocabulary. So it's always an ongoing process. It never really ends. But for specific matches, just reviewing the teams and all that kind of stuff, and that's changed. Um, I more so leave notes as a fallback in case like the servers go down and we have to fill or anything like that. It's good to make sure you prepare that information just in case.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you pull it off the top of your head. Like you can ask me just about anything in Rocket League, and I'll, for the most part, be able to give you a good answer. And if not, I'll go find it for you.
It's pretty solid prep.
Yeah,
Gotta,
man, it's one of those things as a color commentator that's a little bit different from being play by play.
yeah, for
My
sure.
job, in my opinion, is no matter what happens, I got you. Like if you're my play by play, no matter what happens, if you lose your voice and you can't talk at all, if you need a specific stat, if you need to remember certain information, whatever it is, I got you. That's my job. My job is to make sure that you are taken care of.
Yeah,
So
trust fall guy.
yeah, and that's why no matter what happens, I want to make sure I have that information. You know, so everybody's a little bit different, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Speaking of like just everyone not having the same ideal or just way about going things, with casting, how do you adapt to your different partners that you cast with?
Um, the best part is having the ability to cast with them multiple times, right? Like
Hmm.
a lot of it is a conversation that happens before the cast even starts. Like prime example was I casted a lot up with Jorby this past week for E League, and he and I haven't casted each other since Northern Arena 2017, so literally a year ago.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, it's just the conversation starts beforehand, you know, not being afraid to go up to him and be like, "Hey, man, like, what tendencies do you have? Is there certain things that you like to do or not do? What kind of things should I look out for?" And even asking the people that cast with him on a regular basis, like talking to Corelli and being like, "Hey, like, what kind of things do you notice as a color guy with Jorby that you have to be aware of and stuff?" And kind of relying on it's a team effort, right? So asking him if he's comfortable with me doing certain things, because it is give and take for both sides. I'm like, "Hey man, like these games are going to be pretty high energy. Are you okay with me doing a little bit of play by play and then moving into more conversation and this and that?" And it's more of a team effort and just asking what they're okay with.
Okay.
But it's just learning tendencies and picking up on tendencies very quickly. um, we're pretty blessed with our community where we have a lot of high level talent at the top.
Hmm.
So everybody's fully capable of adjusting and adapting to their co-commentators. But um, the nice thing as the color guys, you are gonna just listen to them talk a lot because they're play-by-play, because that's the direction that Psyonix wants. Um, so by then you can kind of tell the inflections and like when are they passing it to me or dropping off, or
You kind of
when
just
is it
get,
my turn to talk. And you
yeah.
pick up on that stuff if you do it enough. It comes with experience. But um, it all starts at the beginning, man. Like just talking to them and be like, "Hey man, like how are you gonna do this?" And they're like, "Kind of like this, expect this." It's like, "Okay, sweet, let's do this."
And just look for
And it
that,
just
and there
gets
you
better.
go.
Yep. Eventually you just kind of fall into a groove and it just keeps on going.
So you've been to a ton of land events, I can imagine. What was your favorite one?
Oh man, that's tough. um God, season 2 was pretty fun, for specific reasons, both on camera and off camera. Cameron, that's another camera. On and off camera. Season 2 was pretty special, but I don't think anything is gonna ever beat season 1. Season 1 was like the first for everything, right? It's the first time we're in front of a live audience. It's the first time we're casting in general for that kind of a crowd. It's the first time meeting everybody in the community. Um, and even though we've done bigger and grander events, the first time that you hear a crowd erupt after you make a good call or like any like that stuff, you just can't really match.
Yeah.
So season 1's pretty special. I mean, even the stuff like I distinctly remember, um, we were getting ready, and Golden Boy and Axel Toss were like, or not Axel Toss, Golden Boy and who else was it? It was Golden Boy, myself, Findable Carpet, and there was one other person. I forget who it was. But Golden Boy was in the lobby of our hotel and he's like, "Yo, you guys ready? Like, meet down in the lobby in like 10, 15 minutes." We're like, "All right." So we came pre-dressed in our suits, ready to go. And like, for those that don't remember, the Avalon was literally like 2 blocks away from our hotel at the W. So we were walking down Hollywood Boulevard, right? Like contextualizing it, like we're walking down Hollywood Boulevard, 2,000 miles away from home in like our fancy fucking suits. And we walk across the street, and all we see out of the corner of our eye is just a line and a wall of people wrapping around the corner of this nightclub. And they see us walking across the street, and they all just start cheering and yelling. And I see Jordan, Press Start, who is now the guy who works the graphics for NGE, the production company for RLCS, holding a sign that says "Toss yourself." It's like I'm never gonna forget that. Like, how do you compare with that? You know.
You
So
can't, you know.
yeah, a lot of emotions for the first one. It's a special one for sure. But when it comes to just like the grand, I mean, working E League, the first one as well is really special. First time being on like TBS and all that kind of stuff was super cool. Because it was also my dad's side of the family is very traditional.
Hmm.
So a lot of them were kind of like non-believers about like, oh, you're selling drugs. There's no way you're able to make a living off of video games,
Oh
you know?
no.
So when it's like they're watching TBS and they're like, wait, that's you. And it's like, yeah, it is. And they're like, okay, this is kind of real, isn't it? It's like, yeah. So that part was kind of cool too. But
That's
yeah, the
awesome.
first one's always the most special. And you can ask pretty much any caster. Like usually the first one is the one that stands out.
Yeah, because they're just like, you know, it's new, it's exciting. It's just you've never done
I
it
mean, you were
before.
there,
Yeah, dude,
you were
I was shaking when I met you. Like I couldn't stand
there.
still.
I know. We had to like have you sit at that table so you could like calm
I
down for a little bit.
know, dude. It was
Yeah, it was fun.
so surreal. It was a good time though. Oh
Yeah,
man.
meeting which is like, I mean, it's crazy to think about too. Like, that's the first time we met Kaylee, and then now she's been dating Snasky forever, right? And she's a
Yeah,
regular part of the community. I remember
yeah.
talking to her mom and being like, "It's okay, we're just a bunch of nerds. She just
That's
wants to hang out."
right. Her mom was all worried and stuff.
Wouldn't let her go out. Yeah, I mean, she's a
Yeah.
kid, still is, but different now.
Not as bad, you know.
You're right.
All right, so we
Yeah, it
got
was a
a
lot of OGs at the first one, man.
lot of OGs. Got a solid question right here. What do you think is the biggest untapped market in terms of getting more people interested in Rocket League? And do you see any new ways it could be marketed to get more people playing slash watching?
Um, so there's a lot of things that other other communities in esports have done. I know Heroes of the Storm does it really well. Um, and a lot of it just kind of stems from how Psyonix wants and how much they want to involve their like content creators. Like to me, I think they could easily utilize people like John Sandman and stuff way more.
Mm-hmm.
I get recognized more in game from, hey, you make videos with John than I do as an RLCS caster. By
Damn,
far.
really?
Yeah.
That's
Like that
crazy.
shows how big of a reach those guys have, and I think that's very underutilized. Um the fact that they're doing like giveaways for Rocket Pass 2 right now, with a lot of the content creators, I think is a good step, but it can always be more. Um, and it even shows like at LAN, those guys had like a 3 hour meet and greet, and their lines were massive.
That's
But
yeah.
the fact that they don't have an area that they can go and hang out and chill and stuff is kind of like, where's this disconnect coming from? What's the reasoning, kind of thing? So I think a lot of it starts with the content creators. They have the biggest reach out of any of us because the YouTube audience for Rocket League is massive. I think there's things like partnering streamers, like a couple times a week if you want to increase Twitch viewership. I know Heroes of the Storm did this. Imagine if you got drops for watching my stream
That's what I
for
was
like 4
saying.
months,
I was saying that
right?
on Twitter like 2 days ago, talking to
Right.
RVP.
Yeah, doing stuff like that is a great way to do it. I think the game going free to play is a must. I understand their defense of saying that Rocket League is a top 10 and Steam sale list and all that kind of stuff, and that's great, but you have implemented a crate and key system to make sustainable income. And I look back to what the game being free on PlayStation Plus did by being free to play, because right now Rocket League has an issue with, if I tell my friends like, hey man, you should play Rocket League, it's pretty fun. They're like, well, how much is it? It's $20. They're not going to be as inclined to me being like, hey man, it's free, and then letting them get hooked and then having that invest time and effort, because that's what happened to all of us. Is we first played Rocket League and we sat down and we finally played it and we couldn't get enough of it. And there's that kind of feeling that you can't really have unless you play the game, and by being free, that's not an issue. I
Mm-hmm.
did see that there was like this weird bug that went on with the update where someone had like a trial version, so they may be developing a demo version or something like that.
Hmm.
And there was like some weird bug, I forget who it was, but like he was trying to play and stuff, and like his inventory was locked and he had like only a certain amount of time left to play, and he couldn't queue, he could only play in training or something like that. So They might be down or might be making like a demo version or something. And then the Chinese market, I think, is going to be huge as well. Tencent is in partnership, I think, making a free-to-play microtransaction-based version for the Chinese market,
Oh, that's
and I think
right.
that will do a lot as well. That is a culture that desperately, I think, we need to get a hold of. Talking to the 1NE guys like Realize and stuff
Hmm.
from Japan, there's a lot of guys over there itching to get involved, and I think that's a big wave of viewership from South Korea, Asia, China, all that kind of stuff that could really kick Rocket League to another level.
Oh yeah, like there's so many
I
people
mean,
over there that just have no idea, or like if they do, they can't do anything about it yet.
the servers just don't exist and all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
it's a lot of people in a microtransaction heavy market that I think could do a lot of things for Rocket League, and that's supposed to come out like sometime in 2019, I hear. So
So soon,
at least that's what they've
hopefully.
been saying. So yeah, hopefully soon TM.
Soon, yeah.
Yeah, no man.
In terms of so all, as far as I know, we've only had really big 2v2 and 3v3 tournaments. Do you think that Psyonix should try to implement a 1v1 tournament that's bigger in terms of like not these little community tournaments, but more like RLCS type size? Maybe not that big, but kind of up there.
Yes and no. 1v1s is a really big niche. I love ones because you can be meticulous with every little tiny detail, right? Like it's just one on one. You're only watching one car at a time, technically. So you can pick apart every little detail, which I think is great to a certain extent, right?
Hmm.
The game plays really, really slow because a lot of goals are scored in ones. And it's pretty minimal on the creativity side because most people, when they see an air dribble, can shut that down nowadays, right?
Yeah.
But that also brings it to a heightened sense when you see a really sick dribble or a really nice flick and stuff. Like it's hype, and when you get 1v1s, you get really good last second moments, and it really captures what Rocket League is all about. So to say no is kind of weird because like why wouldn't you? You know, there's going to be a market for it. There's going to be people that want to watch it. Um, but at the same time, like logistically, if I say okay, there's a 1v1 tournament, a 1v1 match takes a really long time. So you have to create a format that limits that, like first to 5 or first to 7 or something like that. When it comes to goals scored, finding a way to make sure that you can still make the content digestible without it taking too long.
Yeah.
Um, but I definitely think there's a market for that. I mean, the 5Ks that Johnny's put on right now are a prime example, right? Like people want to watch it, people want to consume that content, so why not? Um, Finding a way to incorporate that in some way, like say instead of making LAN like 3 days, have the players come out earlier and do like a showcase or like a show match, and do a couple 1v1 tournaments in there and
Kind of
stuff,
like
and have
League
it be
does, right?
yeah, and have it be like an all-star event or something leading up to it, or whatever you want to do.
That would be awesome.
Those are the things, and those are the things that League and stuff and Blizzard have the ability to do because they have that FU money.
True.
Psyonix doesn't. It's
Yeah.
it's tough for them to take those kind of risks because it could just be them throwing away cash. They don't know. I think the Rocket League community, whenever it comes to the competitive scene, will gladly consume content, and if not, just throw rewards on it, and they'll watch anyway. So it doesn't matter. So I don't know. I think there's ways they could do it. I do think there's definitely room for it. It's just a matter of making sure it's a format to make it so the games don't take too long and it's not drawn out. Because I think it'd be cool to do like a mercy rule, like if a player goes up by 3 goals, they win automatically.
Hmm.
That way it's like super engaging. Like, oh crap, he's up by 2. Even though there's 3 minutes left. Plus kickoff goals are frustrating sometimes. They just
Oh
happen,
yeah.
especially in 1v1s. It's very punishing. So,
Hmm.
but it also allows for a comeback mechanic, which is super cool too. So it goes both ways.
Who is Lawler outside of casting? Like, what are your hobbies, man? What do you do outside of Rocket League?
Um, Obviously I stream a lot.
Hmm.
It's because I enjoy interacting and educating. I've been recently using the platform that I have to educate younger audiences. So I've been going to colleges and high schools and middle schools,
Really?
and even younger sometimes, and doing public speaking about just like motivational speaking stuff, like following your dreams. And I got bullied a lot in high school, and knowing that it's okay to just be who you are. I used to be. I had a rough time when I was younger, basically accepting who I was. because I'd always got picked on for liking anime or, whatever.
Mhm.
So learning to accept yourself, and even though like throughout my entire high school career and everything else, everybody's like, oh, that's not a real job, you can't do this, you can't do that. And now I just look at them and go like, well, good to know you were all wrong, that's cool. But just finding and teaching kids that it's okay to be passionate about things, like be realistic, but if you're passionate about something and you enjoy it, then go get it. Nobody's gonna give it to you. You have to be ambitious and still be smart about how you go about it. Give yourself a nest egg to make sure that if you do go pursue something, you don't have any regrets in life. So talking to younger generations and trying to inspire and answer any questions, because a lot of people think like when it comes to video games, okay, you can be a pro gamer and that's it. And then I bring in like, well, there's this broadcast side and there's all the things behind the scenes, and
There's
you
content
need
creation and all this
you need
stuff, and
producers, you need directors, you need audio engineers, you need network engineers, you need sound guys, you need this and that, and stage admins, and like there's a lot of things that go into putting on the show. And even though you may not be the best player in the world, maybe you have an eye for art and you're the ones designing the logos or making the graphics, and like that stuff is crazy.
Mhm.
There's a lot of really cool things that go into it and answering questions. And I think the coolest thing about that is out of all the ones I've done, the first one I did was in New York for some kids in like the Bronx and stuff, where Golden Boy grew up.
Damn.
And they, after it was all said and done, like I realized that there was jocks, there was nerds, there was drama kids, or all the cliques that I had. Every single one of them was still there, and they all loved anime. Like all the questions that I asked for the younger generations, they usually don't give a shit about like the work side of it or like what can I do in this and that.
Yeah.
Almost every single one of them is like, yo, what's your favorite anime? Do you like Dragon
No
Ball Z?
way. That's
And
awesome,
it's like
dude.
it's so cool to see the younger generation, like as cringy as it is seeing all these kids doing flossing and all that kind of stuff for Fortnite dancing. I love the fact that this generation, whether you're a jock, whether you're a nerd, all of you are enjoying gaming. And I love that, right? It's really inspiring to see, because I got bullied for that same shit when I was a kid, right?
Same.
So,
Same.
so seeing that stuff is really cool. So I've been doing and spending a lot of time trying to use my platform to reach out and talk and all that kind of stuff, because if no one else is going to do it, I might as well.
Yeah,
I'm a
man.
big Green Bay Packers fan. I watch a lot of football, for American football. Huge tattoo advocate. For those that don't know, I have tattoos. Surprising, right? So always finding new ways to get more or incorporate them in some way. And then spending times with friends, man. This job kind of kills your social life. It's very time consuming,
Oh
especially if you
yeah.
want to make a living in it. The more effort you put in, the more you get out of it. So finding time that after a big event and a little bit of downtime, like right now, it's like, yeah, I'll get all the guys together and we'll try to, just try to relax and be people again. But I'm pretty simple, man. But in my downtime, I play more games and hang out with my friends, or try to.
Yeah, that's sounds perfect, honestly. Got the dream job and just killing it. But that's super
Trying.
cool. Didn't expect it. Not that, that's awesome that you're talking to people, going out and doing all these public speaking events and stuff, just helping kids pursue their passion.
Yeah, I've always wanted a place to educate or learn, or give a place for people to say that, like, hey, there's some of us out there that are listening and are here for you and have made it through the same struggles that you've been going through. Because yeah, high school wasn't, and it's not something I really talk about. I contemplated suicide a couple times in high school just because it got that rough.
Damn.
And the fact that, like, hey, I'm able to make it through it too, like, just don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help or rely on your friends. They're there for a reason.
Oh
Nobody's in it
yeah.
alone.
Never.
So yeah, it's been cool, being able to reach out to those kids, and there's a couple that can tell really needed it, and that's part of the reason why I do it.
Yeah, man, that's awesome to hear. Truly. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. Does anyone in the chat have any last questions before I let him go?
Nah, man, we got time. Don't worry about it.
You know,
Um,
busy guy. Your friends are over.
I know you don't know how to Reddit, so let me see if there's any on there.
I have the link for the thing. I checked right before we started. Ask Lawler if we can see pics of his afro.
Hell no. So when I was a kid, I had I still have really curly hair. I just cut it all off now.
Okay.
But I had like super curly hair.
Yeah.
Um, and what the only way I knew how to manage it was like put a hat on it or some shit and like try to mat it down when it dried or something. And we went to a beach nearby my house and we're like swimming and all that kind of shit. And then we started playing beach football. And without realizing it, I realized it dried normally, and the pictures are so bad, dude. It's so bad. Like, there's this one movie on the Disney Channel called Jump, where it's like they literally jump rope or something like that. And there's one of the main actors. His name's like Corbin Blue or something like that. Has this? I literally look like that kid. It's terrible, dude. It's so bad. It's so bad. You guys will never see those photos. I swear to God, I will never show those. They're so bad.
Oh my god. You could do like a yo. If I ever reach 10 million followers, then you'll see them.
Yeah, if I reach 10 million subs, I'll show those photos.
10 million subs. You heard it here first, chat.
10 million subs, I'll do it. Good luck.
Oh man. All right. Anyone else? Do you see anything on Reddit?
People asking about my sleeve tattoo. So my sleeve, like you can see it. If you go to my Twitch chat and type exclamation point tattoos, I think I talk a little bit about it, but the top half is a balance of emotional and logical thought. It's a mandala, which is a symbol, which it's kind of hard to explain if you've never seen it. Geometric symbol, all symmetrical and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a town where my grandparents grew up below it. And then at the top, it's like sun, stars, and moon and all that kind of stuff. And polarities in life, ground is logic, and then sky and sun and stars and astrology kind of stuff is emotion. So it's a balance of emotional and logical thought. And then the bottom half is a wolf on top of a cliff face with like a kite and like clouds and all that kind of stuff. And it's a little bit about casting and about being versatile and being independent and free thinking and forward thinking and all that kind of stuff, but also not being afraid to rely on others and work with others in a team and all that kind of stuff. That's like the super TLDR version of it.
Super TLDR. That sounds awesome, dude.
Thank you. Finally got it finished. It only took 3 years.
Wow, really?
Yeah, man. Every time I would go, my tattoo artist is a busy dude, so finding time
Oh,
between him
okay.
and my schedule was never easy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Man, 3 years. That's holy.
It's a project, man. It's a project. You don't realize how long and how much skin is on your arms until you have to tattoo it.
I guess that's true. What is Lawler's favorite food in the junk and cooked category?
In the what and cooked?
Junk?
Like junk food and
I'm
stuff?
assuming that's what he means.
So I have a sweet tooth. I love sweets of all sorts, whether it be candy or baked goods or whatever, ice cream. Like I love sweets so much. There is a type of ice cream in the Midwest, primarily in Wisconsin, called Blue Moon. Basically, it's like Fruity Pebbles but marshmallowy,
Fruity?
and it's super good. Blue Moon ice cream is fantastic. Any type of like Swedish fish or like gummies or dude, I love candy.
Swedish fish are great.
I love sweets, dude. Pie and bring it on. I love sweets.
They're the best for sure. I have a whole pumpkin pie in my fridge right now, actually.
You can have it. That tastes garbage.
You don't like pumpkin pie?
Why the fuck would you have pumpkin pie when you can have like cherry or apple or literally anything other than pumpkin?
Because it was Thanksgiving, and that's like the pumpkin Thanksgiving pie. What?
Pumpkin pie gross, dude.
Oh my gosh, man.
No thanks. All yours.
All right, man. Well, I think that's it for questions. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you got your boys over right now, but thank you so
Yeah,
much for
man. Thanks
coming
for
out
having
and
me.
sitting down with me.
Yeah, you better show up at the next LAN, man. And if you can't make it, the one after that.
Is the next one NA or EU?
That's a great question that I don't know.
Cause I don't have a passport,
I would,
but
well, you should. This is something that's actually really weird. So it's so common for everywhere else to have passports, but the United States, because it's so big, we just don't. Because you don't need a passport to go from state to state.
yeah,
So for people in Europe, like almost everybody I know has a passport and gets them fairly young, but we don't. I highly recommend it. Just you should never having a passport shouldn't be the thing that holds you back because it's like 80 to $100 and it's good for like 10 years or 7 years or something like that.
yeah. I definitely need to get one,
Yeah, then like take a trip to Canada or Mexico or something.
dude. I could go see Leaf. I mean, I don't need a passport to come see you, but like, I could go
Right.
to a land in Europe. Yeah, I should look into that.
It's really easy to do, I swear. And you don't want to wait last minute, otherwise it becomes a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I remember I wanted to go to season two land, I think, which was in Europe, and I was like, I don't have a passport, and it's in 2 weeks. Yeah, I don't think this is happening.
Nope.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
man, get a passport. It's worth it.
I'll put that on my to-do list. But thank you so much, man. I hope you have a good night.
You as well, man. Have fun. Stay safe.